A very warm good afternoon from Uganda. Those of you who are in Uganda, I must be the only one in Uganda. Thank you for joining us here on Civic Space TV. My name is Lynn Komugisha. Now, there's a lot that's been going on. If I could bring us to speed, I don't know if you're aware, but the General Eli Tumwine, the first man that shot the first bullet, or fired the first shot rather, during the guerrilla war that started the guerrilla war in as NRA, fought to liberate our country, died the other day, and it is sad a moment. Of course, people are mourning in Uganda. I hope you can mourn with us as we lose one of those important generals we had in the country. Okay, now away from that, I want to pick your minds. I understand we have Kennedy Burashe, the NRM coordinator or chairperson, if that's right, in US. We have Ambassador Henry Mayega, who is in the United Arab Emirates. We have Miriam Kyomugasho. We have Francis Kamuhanda, coordinator ANT in the US. We have Kharim Ntambi. Kharim Ntambi is with National Unity Platform. I'm glad to have you all this afternoon. Now, I want to pick your mind before we can get into the gist of the day. I want to pick your minds on a recent, the Parliamentary Committee on Public Accounts was, rather COSASE, State Enterprise and State Security. They were trying to understand, they were digging into the Uganda Airlines boss, the CEO of Uganda Airlines, are trying to understand her qualifications and what she's doing at the airline. But I want to quickly pick your minds on those proceedings. I'm very certain most of you have been following up, but we also understand that the Uganda Airlines was trying to pick up, and we don't know what this publicity, negative publicity, is going to cause in the near future. I'll start with you, Kharim. Kharim, how are you? And thank you for joining us. What are your thoughts on the ongoing probe into the Uganda Airlines boss by COSASE?
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share some ideas on issues that really affect and are pertinent to our people in Uganda. The recent COSASE probe into the Uganda airline, I think we have seen that revolving door. Ugandans have gone through a lot, and this has not been the first time. We saw what happened in the probe interceding our commercial banks, the probe, and how much money was being swindled by a few individuals who think they hold, they have the country by their hands. It is the same. And the rhetoric we always get from government officials is that you're giving the country a bad image. And I always wonder what would be done in their ideal situation. Push everything under the rug and, and just walk over, or clean, because sooner or later things are going to blow up. And we are talking about a major airline. If you have a national airline, it's the face of the country's tourism. So if such an institution is not held to standards, starting from managerial standards, you are not going into the right direction. And to be honest, you have been seeing the signs of losses. It was not going to come down to a realization again that the top officials in the Uganda airline take a budget for a year, which is bigger than 5 district budgets. If you compare, if you would compare Kalungu, if you would compare Karamoja, if you could compare Kalangala, and you put the salaries of the top 5 people out of the year vis-a-vis the education budget from all these districts, or the health budget for all these districts, the money is being held by a few individuals, and Ugandans should be okay. We should keep quiet because the Might airline, the crane is flying. Oh my God, Kumbaya. Again, we are going to be the primary people. Like if a country invests in an airline, the primary constituents, the primary people that you want to make sure enjoy it are Ugandans. So the burden is on the government to make sure that it employs competent people, to make sure that service delivery is on point so that Ugandans enjoy. Otherwise, we are going to see a report from COSASE about the probe, and unfortunately, those with bigger powers will not, will not see the consequences. Justice will not be served at the end of the day. However, what this helps us as a people is it gives us the exposure. The regime is fully exposed, and people are known. People are in the know. People are aware of who is taking what from where. I think I'll stop from here and give an opportunity to other comments. Thank you so much.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much, Kharim. Ambassador Henry Mayega, will we see another crash of the Uganda Airlines with this probe? It seems to be taking on some negativity, and we understand it was picking up, but it was also making losses. So with this probe, will it expose corruption? Will it? Is it putting the airlines at a risk of closure again?
I'm a very proud Ugandan because whenever I fly home, I actually use Uganda Airlines. I stopped using other carriers as I always go home after every 1.5 months. So Uganda Airlines is a baby that Ugandans must be concerned about, and we must make sure that it actually continues to perform its duties. And I can only probably say that it has been doing very good business between Ntambi and Dubai, because it has overtaken the rest of the carriers in terms of cargo transportation between Ntambi and Dubai. So Uganda Airlines definitely is a carrier that should be really nurtured from its nascent growth, from its very beginning, so that at the end of the day, it becomes a major player in the region, but also in the rest of the destinations, that it is being planned to service. For instance, it's due to start a flight to Guangzhou in China, where quite a number of Ugandans go, and the rest is history. There is also another route that probably in the near future is going to be opened, and that is to London. So Uganda Airlines definitely is a carrier that should become, and every Ugandan should support to become as competitive as possible. And as far as the investigations which are going on, of course, COSASE, which is part and parcel of the National Parliament of Uganda, is doing its job of trying to provide the oversight role, to play its oversight role, to make sure that things are in order. And I'm happy that quite a couple of things are coming out. But I also want to take a note of the fact that we should be careful as COSASE does its job, because it will make a fool of us if this nascent baby, if this younger baby, if this carrier, which is supposed to serve the country, is brought down as a result of careless remarks that we continue to make. I am definitely not going to be part of that, because the carrier and its role are supposed to be really something that all Ugandans must be proud of, so that we nurture this carrier in order to serve the country. And therefore, When Kosas is doing his job, I don't mind. Yes, they can go into the quiet in the camera and so on and so forth, because probably sometimes parliaments all over the world conduct their business behind cameras. There are times when that happens. And therefore, when a suggestion came from some quarters that these investigations, where they've reached, which is particularly a very crucial moment, and therefore to conduct the investigations in camera was something that was very important. I saw also the Minister of Works, General Katumba Wamala, saying that they put in place a team that is composed of quite a number of technocrats from government to look into this matter and make sure that things are done properly, basically to audit the human resources of the young carrier. And so all these things put together, in my view, even if we may have political differences, it's extremely important for us to make sure that whatever direction the investigations go, the carrier is extremely important in as far as a strategic asset to the country, and therefore we must be very careful as we talk about this matter and make sure that at the end of the day, this carrier is nursed and nurtured into one that is as competitive as possible in the region, because it's for all our benefit.
All right. Thank you very much, Ambassador Henry. Now, Francis Kamuhanda, so while the probe is going on, we have received stories coming in actually on what this the airline was doing. Ntambi International Airport has handled 150,653 international passengers, arrivals and departures, in average of 4,892 per day compared to 4,508 per day in June, and 4,018 in May, 4,078 in April, 3,000. So we are seeing there's been progress from the previous month to this moment. We understand that with this probe going on, chances are we might see this reduce. We might see the popularity of the airline go down. We might see a lot of changes coming. But is this the right time? Was it handled the right way? Must we undress before the public as a country? I feel like we were really washing our dirty linen out for everybody to see.
Thank you, Lynn, and fellow panelists. I'll begin by saying that it is unfortunate that we lost one of the senior citizens in Uganda. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Back to Uganda Airlines. Lynn, the problem that we always have in Uganda is I don't know whether I should say lack of planning at the initial stage. So that always brings a lot of questions, or it leaves a lot of flaws within the process going forward. As Ambassador Mayega put it, we are all proud to be Ugandans. That's why you will see Kharim is here. He wouldn't waste his time to come and discuss about Uganda or to see how things should work and function very well. But we are saddened by the processes that take place back home, that what would be moving forward is at some point halted by the dubious processes that take place. But otherwise, I'm also a proud Ugandan to see that we have a carrier. But the way how the business of the carrier is being conducted is in a manner that does not work for everyone or for the interests of all Ugandans. So, and because of that, that itself begins pulling it down. And then when we want to talk about it, then the likes of Ambassador Mayega would say, no, don't. It is going to cause a problem. Like as how you saw when the question of the Isimba Dam, the cracks had developed, and then they went to brief His Excellency. He said, don't talk about it in public. If China hears it, we may end up causing problems to these investors. So that's where the problem is. So we love the carrier, we want it to progress, but the circumstances that are underneath is what we don't agree with that process. Like, for example, if the carrier is not making profits, so how do you pay an exorbitant salary to maybe to the CEO compared to other carriers? Compare it to Kenya Airways, compare it to Ethiopian Airways, which is the biggest carrier in and partly successful, I would say, because almost most airlines will always operate at a loss anyways. But compare with that, and how, as we new entrants into the market, do you come in by exorbitant prices, I mean salaries, to the CEO, or you come in by putting services that are super and attract more people? So all these are factors that we need to put into consideration. Then look at even itself. I'm not doubting skills of anybody that may come on board to help us, but look at the process itself. So once it leaves a lot of questions and you want us not to talk about them, that's what will bring a problem. So it is always important that we talk about these things openly, and the process should always be as transparent as possible, so that Francis should be able to talk good and market our national carrier than to feed the few. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Francis. Quickly, Kennedy, Burashe, what are your thoughts on this? Quickly, as we're going to the most important discussion of our day.
Hi, Lynn, how are you? Long time. And my fellow panelists. We are saddened today by the passing of our general, our hero, and we celebrate his service, his commitment to the struggle. And here we are talking about the Uganda we love. Now, let's be clear about the story, because it is not wrong, first of all, to have a discussion. Now, like the ambassador said, why don't we talk about these critical things in the privacy of our home called Uganda, where you can reduce it to a homestead, where the parents, mother and father, decide not to bring a chaotic debate, discussion, in the forum of kids. So here we have our very, very serious business talked about in plain sight. And for me, I go back to, is it a good idea that we even debate? Yes, it is. And while we are doing that, can we moderate for the benefit of the whole country? But of course, now we have people who are attempting to score points, political points, to appear so brilliant, and now everybody is an expert. But this is an ongoing debate, and it should be had. But I also go back to someone who questions the integrity of the personnel. Now, was the question about the failure of the person on top? Was that the debate? Because for me, it seems that the processor has taken on the route of questioning the education of this person, but was it the subject matter? Because I have seen people who have done so much, with so little education, and they have delivered. So, but that on the side, I think the manner that we employ to discuss these very, very critical issues should matter.
Okay.
On that note, I will say it is important. I will also tell my fellow comrades who are here talking about the payment. I truly don't know how much, because it is debatable. People throw in some money. Someone says, no, that's not how much we make. But even then, when we talk about brain drain, the historical subject was people feel, look, I have earned this much education and I can make so much money across the border. So why do I stay here? And there is a compelling, temptation to go. And here we say, okay, now Uganda is selling a little bit of coffee, a little bit of this and that. So let us give you this much so that we can retain you. So that's a beautiful thing. But now we come from this background of, oh my goodness, you mean you make this much money? Okay, compared to what? You see, I think while we are talking about how much Lynn is making, let us also talk about what if Lynn left, who will take over? It is important.
Okay, Kennedy. All right, Kennedy. I'm sorry to cut you short, but we need to get into the business of the day.
Indeed, you cut me short,
Yeah.
but it's all right.
All right, but we need to get into the business of the day. Kharim, I see your hand up, but I'll get back to you on that. I want to pick Miriam's comment briefly, and we head into today's conversation. Miriam.
Hi, Lynn. Like other panelists have said, we really need to be cautious, and we should have taken more due care in who tried to run our airline, because as we know, we have a history of failure when it comes to Uganda Airlines, a really bad history. So we shouldn't revive on a fault note. But like the ambassador said, if the minister has taken an initiative to review the human resource and the hiring and how it's going on, I think that's a positive step in the right direction. But as public, we should be concerned about the freedom to access information. So when you start hiding issues which concern public accountability into camera, how should we know what's going on? And on that note, I want to applaud Kosase. It's one of the very few teams that our smaller number of opposition still manage to spearhead, and they are doing a good job. That's good, because the parliament is all about checks and balances. When it comes to the opposition, opposition has a big role in as far as democracy is concerned, as far as governance is concerned, and accountability, holding the public, the government accountable to the public is one of those roles. So that's why hiding the information in camera is really a disservice to the whole purpose. I mean, why should you light a lamp and then hide it under the basket, as the Bible says?
All right, thank you very much for that. Now, today's business, it's a year after our general elections here in Uganda. We are still waiting to hear from Kenya's Supreme Court on the way forward. They are ready to hear the case that was filed by Raila Odinga Monday. We want to take a look at how we are doing as a country, how we are doing as a government of the NRM, how the opposition is moving a year later after the general elections here in Uganda. I want to begin with Ambassador Henry Mayega. How far have we gone in regard to democracy, in regard to the rule of law, in regard to advancing our country in development 1 year after the 2021 general elections?
Thank you very much, Lynn, for yet another opportunity afforded to me. We have always advanced to this argument. Personally, I've always advanced to this argument that although some people may not want to go back into the history of our country, that we now are sure that every 5 years we have predictable and regular elections, and whoever wants to vie for any position of responsibility, they are free to do so, and they actually do. But of course, as we do that, we have to be careful, because our history in Uganda has been dotted with lots of bloodshed and all these kinds of things, and therefore it is incumbent upon us and whoever wants to participate in those elections to be careful. So at least we are sure now that every 5 years we are not going to have coups or takeovers or both. really playing out in the political field in Uganda. We have regular and predictable elections, and I believe and really imagine that we're going to have subsequent elections in 2026. So it is now granted that we have regular and predictable elections after every 5 years, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry can participate in those. And the other day, you remember, we opened up the political space and we said that whoever was 18 plus, and even those beyond 75, whoever wants to take part in politics and vie for any position of responsibility, they are free. Now, of course, we could go on and say that there are quite a number of fields in which the country is performing well. You can say in terms of politics, you can say in terms of economics, although the economy is just like any other economy in the world, is facing lots of problems as a result of what has been transpiring, especially in as far as the pandemic is concerned, and then these wars in Europe that are affecting the commodity prices all over the world. It's not only a problem in our country, but all over the world. So politically, I think in my view, for instance, the legislative agenda of the NRM is progressing very well. Just this week, the Attorney General tabled 7 bills before Parliament. And I want to believe that Parliament is going to be very busy debating those, plus, of course, performing their oversight role. And I just want to say that I've seen quite a number of committees of Parliament coming all the way to the UAE to oversee what the embassy does. So I want to believe that the politics is going on well. Recently, we had quite a couple of by-elections, which were won by NRM, all of them, hands down. I know the opposition in the country will say that quite probably a number of things didn't go their way and therefore the elections were rigged. So I want to believe that the politics in the country is moving very well. But I also want to add and say that in as far as the politics is concerned, I think sometimes we make a mistake as a country because we cannot keep ourselves in an election mode year in, year out. Ever since we finished elections, we concluded elections last year, it is as if we are having another round of elections probably next month. And for me, as far as I'm concerned, that is a mistake. I've lived in the countries where elections do not happen that regularly, but life goes on. And in terms of economic development, this country are advancing. And the other day, somebody was asking me a question as to whether actually democracy brings growth and development. Of course, that is a matter of conjecture. You can argue it in a direction. So in as far as politics is concerned, the country is stable, security is granted, there is no problem. So, and therefore, we are performing very well in the political field. The economic field, of course, there are issues, and quite a number of those things are being brought upon us by what's happening on the international scene. Every Ugandan is concerned, for instance, about the commodity prices that have been going on in the country where I am. The prices of fuel, for the benefit of those who are listening to us, those who are seeing us, has gone up over and above 50%. And I see also the same story in the US and in the rest of the European countries. And therefore, that is not an exclusive problem of Uganda. So in terms of economics, yes, we have quite a number of issues, but I don't want to imagine that we are as desperate as, for instance, some country in the Far East, which I am not going to name given the nature of my job, where the government collapsed as a result of them becoming bankrupt. So in as far as economics is concerned, we are still afloat, despite the fact that we have issues in as far as commodity prices are concerned and so on and so forth. I was talking to a friend in Kampala yesterday, and he told me that the jams are back. And I asked him a question that, well, how come the jams are back when the price of fuel is rising almost on a daily basis? That one, I think somebody who is an expert in economics will explain to us so that we begin to appreciate why, despite the fact that there are those price increases of fuel, still the jams are happening in Kampala and in the rest of the parts of the country. So in terms of economics, yes, we are having issues, but I think the economy of Uganda is still afloat. And in terms of the rest of the things like the social aspects of the country, I think we are still also doing very well, but those I will talk about for them later, Lynn. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Now, Kharim, we understand that as the leading opposition party, National Unity Platform, despite losing the 2021 general elections, has gone on to do, I don't know what. You could bring us to speed what you have been up to. We understand you've been having gatherings in the diaspora, in Europe, in USA. What are you preparing and how have you performed as when you look back at the 2021 general elections and now, what have you achieved as National Unity Platform? What do you seek and on what are you working on?
For starters, I want us to correct the record that the 2021 elections were not lost. They were heavily rigged, and we still contend that. And the reason why I'm saying that is up to now, we still have 300 people who are missing, who are kidnapped. Those things are, we have never received justice. We still have vehicles on a campaign trail that were impounded that we have never, received. I think the ambassador called that a peaceful one. We still haven't got justice for over 100 people who were killed between November the 18th and November the 19th of 2020. The ambassador will not tell you that. Those were people who have families, who had children, who had, had things going, who were also Ugandans. Those people have never received justice. Ugandans have never received justice. So to hear that we are afloat, maybe for those who are on the oppressor's side afloat, but Ugandans are still under the scourge of this dictatorship. So I will talk about what has happened. You would think that after the general elections, government will do soul searching and think about ways of harmonizing the political space. But what we have seen, the by-elections that happened in Kayunga and Soroti and other places, the way the opposition members have been treated, even up to the ballot box where you get people from the security stacking up ballots, all that doesn't predict or doesn't portray a conducive environment for a good political space. Now, the ambassador spoke about the economics, and I believe about 2 years ago, gold was among the exports that we had as Ugandans, the most upraised source of income. Unfortunately, 2 months ago, the African gold refinery was sanctioned, and right now, all the gold that might be coming out of that refinery is being sold on the black market. And I would be happy to know who is buying our gold from the ambassador when it has been sanctioned. What programs what other ways do we have to circumnavigate that? Now, we talk about livelihood. People from Karamoja have been starving. There has been a systematic neglect of our brothers and sisters in that region, despite the minerals that come from that area. It does not, reflect on the lives of the people who live in Karamoja. Now, Mr. Ambassador would say everything is okay, everything is hunky-dory. However, we have registered about 3,000 people that have died in the past 3 months due to hunger. We still put, funds together to help people here and there. Now, to come to where we are, I think National Unity Platform has managed to bring Ugandans together to to create awareness on what exactly is going on in Uganda in all regions. In all regions, now the discussion has changed from the usual things on social media and entertainment to talking about ways our country can be liberated. And in terms of the diaspora, we have put a strong foot on ground in so many places. We have over 38 chapters all across the world, and we have been organizing and mobilizing people to speak up, organizing and mobilizing people to encourage our brothers and sisters in Uganda to stand up. We have been, having different events to re-energize our people. Recently, we just had our 4th commemoration of the attempted assassination of Honorable Kyagulanyi and 33 other comrades in Arua, an incident that saw one of our comrades, Yasin Kauma, being killed. So we have been doing this for the past 4 years. We always choose the weekend of from the 11th to the 13th of August to remember our comrades who have paid the ultimate price, who have died at the hands of the junta, as well as celebrating those who are still brave and, are fighting on. So we had our big event in Long Beach, California here. We also had an event in the Netherlands. We had an event in the U.A.E, in South Africa. So many other small chapters have been, having these events to keep the conversation going. So for as far as the diaspora is concerned, I think our resolve is strong. We have maintained this constituency as the leading opposition party, and we intend to bring other comrades together who are in the struggle, bring friends of Uganda to the struggle, and also call upon our development partners to intervene in what's going on, because it's not sustainable. I think I will stop here for now. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Kharim. Francis Kamuhanda, what is the ANT up to? And looking what 1 year after the elections, considering what ANT had put in place and was looking forward to, but maybe did not achieve because of losing out in the election. How are you consolidating all that now, a year later, and what plans do you have for the future?
Thank you, Lynn. And our fellow panelists so far for the discussions. And as you've said, ANT, that should be one of the opportunity that Ugandans lost not to vote for ANT during the 2021 elections, but we don't always lose hope. So you are aware that one of the biggest challenges that Uganda has is the collapse of institutions of government and structures that are more of now a hegemony as compared to what a functional government that works for all is concerned. But having participated in the elections and we did not succeed in being in power, so we managed to take up a few seats in the local government. So having realized that there is lack of, capturing power and what you are using power for are two different things. And two, also being ready, that are you ready for power when it comes to you? Because we have been seeing cycles of power misuse in Uganda. So as ANT, even right from the inception of the party, we are training. So the training currently is continuing. We have not lost hope. We are training the young people. We are training and asking the Ugandans who had run away from politics that it is important to come back and ensure that we usher in a regime of leaders who are clear-minded and patriotic, And so we are doing that, and we are continuing doing that, and also building structures, engaging stakeholders at different levels, religious leaders, local people, of course, amidst the arm twisting of government, where they will come in. The current government has totally lost the idea of what we went through. That's why you find in most cases, like Ambassador Mayega was saying, that democracy is at its peak, people are enjoying it. No, that's not true, because I would say it is Article 29 that talks about freedoms of speech, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, and so on. All those, like that one for sure, it is grossly violated. So you find most of the activities that we do them in a more clandestine way, but we are going on, and we are trying to do what I would call mindset change, in as far as Ugandans are concerned, as stakeholders in this country. And we believe that once Ugandans or stakeholders accept and know that Uganda is their country, and it's not only the quest for power, but how you are going to use power for a series of programs that ANT set in its manifesto that is sold to Ugandans, then we believe Uganda will go the right trajectory, as opposed to what the regime of Mayega is doing. If you look at the recently concluded by elections, it is as if the NRM generally, they are like the baboon monarch of France. They have learned nothing and have forgotten nothing, because from all that occurred during the past that led to even the NRA revolution, they go back and bring them again. Generally, it stems back, even if you go to the Pan-African movement, why it came into existence, what the settlers were doing, the colonial masters, grabbing people's lands, enslaving people, and so on and so forth. The NRM goes on doing the same. So as ANT, we are busy like trying to mobilize and build structures and locally educate people, and those who had given up on politics, to say no, it is important you come back on board. And of recent, we have been traversing the whole country. Then when it comes to the diaspora, we also have different chapters in different countries, in Europe, in Germany, in South Africa, and all these other African countries. So those chapters we are also mobilizing. We are busy like discussing important issues, and most especially for us, the issue is what lessons do we learn from the failures of movement, and what can we put right in case we have the power, and how can we as a party not get drunk with power to the extent of even killing innocent Ugandans just because they hold a different ideology compared to ours, and then putting a government in power that works for everybody. That's what I can say for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Francis. Now, Kennedy, we've heard from the rest, and we are talking about the future of Ugandan politics as we move on from 2021 general elections. In your view, how far?
The future of Uganda is very, very brilliant. And it is informed by our past and certainly our present. We have come a long way, and here we are. You see, I don't want to complicate the story. It is very, very simple. I'll give you a very quick story about two tradesmen. These people were sent on an island to find business for shoes. It was a shoe company. And one went there, wrote a report, because he found on the island nobody had shoes. So he wrote a report that, you know what, we don't have a business there. Those people don't wear shoes. And another one came back and wrote that we have hit a jackpot. We are the first people. We will be the first people to take shoes there. So you can see, these are two people who come out of the same place with two different reports, but certainly one of them has it right. Now, you had two brothers who had a drunkard parent, and one didn't drink. And when he was asked, he said, you know what? I don't drink because I grew up around a drunkard. And another one was very busy drinking. He said, why do you drink so much? Because I grew up around a drunkard. So for as long as we live, we shall have competing, understanding of issues. So here in Uganda, we have a country that does not export people anywhere because of political reasons. We don't send out refugees. We receive refugees from all the corners of the world. We have refugees from Syria, from Iraq, from Sudan, from name it. We have them in Uganda. Now, if that is not indicative of a peaceful place, then there has to be another dimension of understanding. Now, there are many pointers we can employ to understand our status in terms of our political trajectory. And just to speed you up, once upon a time, I sat here in Washington with Honorable Matembe, and she had come with a very, very wonderful story about Uganda, which wasn't good. She came and told the whole crowd in the audience that Museveni was seriously slaughtering people. And one of the attending people wanted to get the depth of the story and said, Madam Honorable, are you seeking political asylum here, or you will be going back? And he said, no, I'm going back. He said, but so, and the lady sat down. Ideally, it is a flat lie for you to come and say that this man is seriously killing people and you are on your way heading back after speaking so much about him. So some people will advance their political interests through lies, but the truth will always come up. And in this case, the truth about Uganda is that Honorable Kyagulanyi is in Uganda. Dr. Vesje is in Uganda. And I suspect all the people you can call enemies of the government are in Uganda, in the capital city, transacting their business, living their normal lives, and it's all good. Now, once upon a time, President Mandela said something. He said that he had a very, very big struggle to take on, but the biggest of all was within his ranks. That he had these radical young men who were driven with the ideals of nationalism, but they were never prepared for the uphill task of fighting, the racist government in South Africa. Now, because they were never prepared, every time they encountered a problem, they were broken. Okay, so here we have young, enthusiastic Ugandans who have a very, very conflicted understanding of politics. And they think that we must operate at perfection, and underrating good. Because my conviction is that we are operating at the level of good. And as we say, never let perfection be the enemy of good. Uganda is at good, okay? And we take it for all it's worth, because we come from a very, very, bad background in every sense of the word. Our social fabric was broken. Our economy was broken. Our security was non-existent. So we come from that background. And here we are exporting peace. For your information, we have exported peace to Congo, to Somalia, to Sudan, and across Africa. If you've been monitoring the late engagements with foreign leaders and President Museveni, guess what? He's a consultant on peace. And these are serious governments that are visiting Uganda, including the Granda, Congo. So when we speak about these things, we are not sycophants. We are not just supporting a government for the heck of it. We add 1 + 1 and come to these numbers that stand up. And I think what the president did, perhaps for the future students of politics, is how he deals with opposition. Okay, he has never made enemies, or at least he has never intended to make enemies, much as they want to, to make him, their enemy. He has failed to qualify to that level. He has always been friendly, reaching out, and you can, attest to that for some of you who saw Honorable Mao jumping on board. That was a beautiful thing for Uganda, because I believe Mao is a brilliant man, and many, Honorable Kamia, Honorable Anwar. So all these people had things to say about the president, but he never relented. He called on. So that's real politics 101. That's real democracy 101. And you come to the United States after so many years, very many educated people, so much money, and still the contention is there. They still have so much to resolve, and I bet you it won't happen in our lifetime. So let us celebrate our simple steps. Let us celebrate that you can tonight, wherever you are in the world, you can pack and arrive in Kampala without a problem. Now, that does not take away the fact that we have bad people who are supposed to be doing good, but they choose to do bad, and they are holding offices. And I must qualify that the majority of them are there on merit, including our doctors, our different ranks of people. They are betraying us as a country. And we have tried to emphasize the political spectrum, the people holding political offices. But we have people who are outside politics, who are doing bad things. The business people selling our people bad products, and they are Ugandans. So we need to polish our lifestyle. We need to pray for our people to change their behavior. Because when I am in Washington here, and you drive through some places and they are crisp clean, and you're like, how do they do it? Is it? How do they do it? Because they do it because everybody is hands-on. They see something, they say it, and they will not back off. Someone is going to call the police. Someone is going to yell at you. You are rubbishing the place. You are throwing. But also, they have come up with the punitive approach, whereby they penalize your pocket. You litter, you pay, and the words are very clear there. 1,000 for littering. So nobody is ready to pay $1,000 for throwing garbage. So here in Uganda, it is getting there slowly. You park wrongly, they boot you, and you have to pay. Now recently, I saw how they arrested all those vehicles that had not paid their penalties. Why had not they not paid? They thought it was like it has always been. You can get away. Now, I bet you someone is going to be cautious about that and say, you know what? I better pay up front. I better drive carefully. I better not park on the pavement. So we are building a country, and I pray that we don't splinter. We don't forget where we're coming from. We don't forget the numbers, because we have people who know what to do, and those who are trying to understand what to do, and those who don't know completely. So we must appreciate all these constituencies and work to polish our country to arrive, because that is our mission. Madam Lynn, the fact that you put up this program is to advance, the discussion. It is towards building a better Uganda. Otherwise, I don't think you're paid for this. I doubt, and even if you were paid, it wasn't your motive. Your motive was to bring people on board, to share ideas for the advancement of our country and democracy, inclusive. So that is my conviction that we are on board, we are moving forward. And like the ambassador put it straight, there is a projection. We know what will happen and nothing will change that.
All right.
So, yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Kennedy, for that. Now, Miriam, from the people who have spoken so far, I'm picking a number of things. The opposition is questioning how to harmonize the political space. My problem is that they're holding gatherings instead of strengthening party structures. I don't know if this is one of the way of doing that. Now, it is also still attacking the ruling government without a strategy. They are unable to actually bring themselves together. During that California event that the National Unity Platform held, the president of the National Unity Platform was very, very key on what he said. He was talking about unity, but we understand that the opposition in Uganda is still not strongly unified. They still have issues with unity. Miriam, what have you to say about that, but also in light of it is 1 year later?
Yeah, 1 year later after the chaos, Lynn. Today we have an opportunity to compare the East African countries, like how they are handling their elections, and you can clearly see the mess we are in. If you bring the Ugandan example and you position it with the Kenyan thing, it's like it's like one is at 9 and another one is at -1 or somewhere there. In the past, the likes of Ambassador Mayega were using the foreigners. You can't compare Uganda with USA. You can't compare Uganda with Western countries as far as democracy is concerned. But now we have our neighbors across the road. I mean, see how organized they are, see how politically harmonized their situation is. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's a far cry. It's much, much better than what we have in Uganda. Lynn said that the opposition is disorganized, but are they disorganized or they are disempowered? The Kenyan government has a strong constitution. We also used to pride the Uganda 95 constitution as the best in the region, but not yet. That's not the case anymore. The Kenyan constitution so far is the best. And we can see how it's enabling them to sail across a big political hurdle, including the petition now that is going on. Nobody is questioning the judiciary because it's an independent judiciary and it was vetted by the whole public. Everybody, okay, the IEBC had issues, but it's far more trusted by the voters because it's an independent body, which was, even though was elected by the POSB, but it was highly vetted by the public and they have powers to really act independently. That's why they're even in the petition, they are sued as independent. Nobody's blaming the government of conniving with the IBC. The IBC is being petitioned in its own capacity as an institution. We still have a lot to do, and at the position, I mean, what can they do now? They are not well funded in Uganda. They are not well facilitated. The powers, the government interferes, the security issues, the security forces actually run the politics in Uganda instead of the political institutions. It's like one of the political organ which really manages Ugandan politics is not the political institutions or party institutions, but the UPDF. So that's a big challenge. And as opposition organizers, I think the rallies, the conventions, Kharim Ntambi has mentioned that they have 38 I think 38 organs across the world. I think that's a step forward. That's one way of organizing. That's one way of building and strengthening the party. Francis has also talked about what ANP is doing. The world now is a village, is a smaller village. So we all have to run the issues wherever we are. So if you can organize in California, if you can organize in Kampala, we and good. I hope the organization was looking into strengthening the party and regrouping, especially after the brutal encounter in 2021. And that brutal encounter is not a political allegation, is not just, one party accusing the other. It's even well recorded in the Human Rights Report, which was put together by the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Kharim mentioned that 300 people were kidnapped and are still not accounted for. 100 plus were murdered in cold blood, in which we also in November 2020, and still they are not accounted for. So we still have a lot of issues looking back. We haven't even moved away any step further. We still see rigged by-elections. We still see military intervening in the political processes. So we haven't moved ahead. The question is, how do we move ahead? I want also first talk about what Kennedy mentioned, that we don't see refugees coming in Uganda. Kennedy, have you gone through Ntambi airport? That influx of young Ugandans, economic refugees, I mean, we don't need political refugees to be refugees. These are economic refugees trying to survive wherever they are going, even when there are threats on their life. They still go because they don't have a solution. And the ambassador Mayega is busy now grappling with damage control on whatever is going on in his yard in the Middle East. So the influx, the influx of young Ugandans, the brain drain of young Ugandans looking for economic survival, who are leaving Uganda because of poverty, because of unemployment, is the highest we have ever seen in history. And that's a black spot on the NRM legacy. We see the poverty numbers are not decreasing, they are rather increasing. If you see the recent UBOS report, all these things are recorded even by Ugandan institutions. So you don't have to, of course the Ugandans are poor on the street. And the ambassador said, we don't have to blame the Ukraine-Russian war on this. Poverty numbers in Uganda are increasing, unemployment is increasing, the youth are growing more desperate, and you can see like how they are trying to even exile themselves for survival. So all those, the question is, what's the way forward? What is the solution? And like we discussed the Uganda Airlines saga, the saddest thing is like Museveni still interferes in the economic policies of Uganda, and the airlines situation is one of those examples. Instead of letting the economic institutions sit down and make policies which we can revive the Ugandan economy, he comes in, he keeps on stepping in politically and it's like it's a stumbling block for the economic progress of Uganda. The recent example is the Pineti coffee scandal. We see now the Isimba Dam is failing. All those contracts, the minister came out crying that they made a bad contract, which is putting Uganda at a disadvantage. Whom do we blame for all these economic gaffes? Whom should we blame? Should we blame the Chinese? Are they the ones who force us to sign on those fake contracts? Or it's our corruption? And if we don't discuss these things, and now we are claiming we have to put them in camera to save the national image, I mean, how should we clean up that? How do we move forward? And if you are making mistakes, the results are showing for the last 35 years, from the sale of UCB to the collapse of the first Ugandan airlines, the Uganda Railways. If you are a landlocked country without a rail system, without an airline, how do you function? How do you promote agriculture? Modernization of agriculture was repressed by a political, another omnibus kind of misplanned agencies, or wealth creation. And all those are run by unscrupulous channels. They are not streamlined. Salim Saleh is like a minestrone himself, and it's like between Museveni and Salim Saleh running the government versus the institutions which would be streamlining the agricultural projects, which would be modernizing agriculture. So the last thing we hear about agriculture modernization is NRM manifesto. They don't go beyond the manifesto. Every manifesto has modernization of agriculture, and that's where it stops. Karamoja people are starving. If we had started irrigation in Karamoja in the last 35 years, would we still see people still dying of hunger in Uganda? What a shame. And it's all on Museveni's head. For the last 35 years, he has run this economy down single-handedly.
All right. Thank you very much, Miriam, for that. Kharim, your hand is up, and I was just coming to you because we want to understand, whereas we know that the opposition plays a major role in advancing the politics of the country, but we also understand that sometimes, and as we've heard from our leaders in Uganda, they have constantly said that, continuously rather said that the opposition always fuels the foreign interference in the politics of the country. We also see that you as National Unity Platform have allied much with the diaspora, and most of the work you do is actually in the diaspora. We don't see you carry out grassroots enhancement on ground, but we see you more stronger in the diaspora. And we keep saying the government is always alleging that your party works with international forces to destabilize the regime. I mean, shouldn't that worry you as the leading opposition party in the country? And two, shouldn't you be focusing on how to get to rally the country onto your side instead of fostering divisions?
Thank you so much, Lynn. I'm afraid I didn't get the point where you say we are trying to reinforce divisions. Is that what you say?
I am saying that your focus right now as a party is on diaspora issues. Every time you have a gathering, it is in the diaspora. And we understand that is worrying for many of us, for many of the people on ground in Uganda. They would rather, because if you focus more on the diaspora, then what happens to the people, to your support structures this side?
Oh, okay. Thank you. I get it. I think what really captures people's eyes is always the diaspora, because we have means to transmit what is going on. However, there has been a lot of work being done on ground, opening up offices. We've been having a Kunga campaign going all around the country. We have been reconnecting with the different coordinators in different regions, opening regional offices. All of that has been done. Only that, to some of us who have access to online and social media, most of what we see is in the diaspora. And why is it in the diaspora? Because we have a very huge number of aggrieved Ugandans, like Miriam said earlier. We have economic refugees, and Ambassador Mayega is one of the biggest hosts. And some of our, brothers and sisters in those areas have been going through, it's like chattel slavery out there. By last year, we had a person being killed every month. Some get documented, and some the embassy would never disclose what happens. So the number of refugees, political refugees that we are having entering the country are less than the economic refugees leaving the country. If you are to look at the lines of young people leaving through Ntambi airport on every month. So that doesn't mean we are exporting peace. As Mr. Kennedy was saying earlier, we are not exporting peace. Actually, in Congo, we still owe 11 billion US dollars that was awarded to them that we are supposed to be paying for plundering into their country and taking mineral resources. Now, that money is supposed to be paid by Ugandan taxpayers. However, when the plundering of mineral resources in Congo was taking place, it's a few individuals that took the loot. However, that's the kind of peace Mr. Kennedy feels comfortable. Perhaps he might be among the beneficiaries of the loot. So we have really put foot on ground, especially in different areas of the country. What else? I think we are pretty good. We are pretty good as the leading opposition party in Uganda to put the message across.
Kharim, what you're not answering me is why, what are you doing about the allegations that the government always says that the National Unity Platform works with international forces to destabilize the country?
Oh, okay. Oh, no, that's a typical talking point from repressive governments. So they would always find ways of connecting opposition movements with dubious foreign forces. However, it should be known that the NRM regime has been pampered by the West for so long. For example, Uganda has a military-to-military partnership with the United States, and that military-to-military partnerships makes things hard for Ugandans to make the case against human rights violations, because the people who are violating human rights have partnered with the USA. And I'll give examples of soldiers who have taken course here and have been at the front line of abusing human rights. I'll start with Kale Kaihura, who went to Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama to take courses there. Is right now being sanctioned. Kandiho also, I think, went to UDN. We've known Mohozi for having gone to Fort Leavenworth. So you see, it is going to be hard for people who have taken classes, who have enjoyed time with the generals here, to later go ahead and hold them accountable. So Museveni uses these proxy bilateral relations to make it look as though those of us who are highlighting the gross human rights abuses should be at the defensive. No, we are not. We are making a case. We are creating awareness. We are asking our our development partners to review the bilateral relations with Uganda, to review the type of contracts that they award to their, what is it called, private companies that are working with the government of Uganda. So those are some of the things that we highlight. We are not anti-investment. We would be careful asking people not to invest in the country. However, all we're seeking is to have at least some kind of leveled playing field where opposition can also feel their role in developing the country. But as we speak, we have 2 members of parliament who have been illegally detained for almost a year, and we would be remiss for us to just keep quiet and say whatever you're saying is going to be detaining. These are facts on the ground. We have members of parliament that have been arrested for almost a year. We have Honorable Namboze also. She broke her back. She's been out of the country for treatment. You have members of parliament who have got lifetime injuries. people who have been mutilated. And those are things that we always, we always highlight. You've seen what happened to the Ugandan author Kakwenza. What happened to him in 2022 is something unheard of. And you look at straight faces of our comrades on this panel, and they will say, everything is okay. We are saying that we have a Kamau everything, and to talk about us.
But Lynn, let's get serious, because the question was about interference. And this gentleman is busy wobbling between things, and we have no time to respond to them. Let's get serious and talk about the subject of discussion this afternoon.
That's you the hooliganism. I thought the thing was about interference.
Gentlemen.
If he wants to talk about the things which are happening in the country, then we can do subject.
Can I be protected?
Ambassador, I was coming to you, but hang on a bit. Kharim, finish up and let's get moving.
Thank you for protecting me, Lynn. I mean, these are the kind of people. I mean, they run the country on patronage. And
we are not attacking people here. We are talking about our country in general. Let's not attack personalities.
No, I'm not. It's the ambassador who came for me. I was trying to be protected. So all I'm saying is that people who bring foreigners to intervene in the stability, it doesn't have to be politics. It can be economics, where someone is going to get someone like Pinetti and say, you know what, you are going to take over our coffee, or you're going to take over such, the health sector. That's, that's intervention. That is what I would even call intervention, where opportunities for Ugandans are being taken away to be given to foreigners who have no skills, who have, who don't have the experience. Yet we have indigenous Ugandans who would do a better job in the agriculture and in the health sector. That's what I would call foreign intervention.
All right, Kharim, thank you. Though I asked why National Unity Platform is being pointed at, or the opposition pointed at, as being in bed with the foreigners destabilizing the country, and you took us away from that. But all right, we'll get back to you on that. Now, Ambassador Henry Mayega, I understand you have your reactions, and as much as we have heard from each other so far, and we're trying to understand how are we doing as a country so far, what is the opposition's role, how are they moving, how is the NRM party moving. But Ambassador Henry Mayega, I want to pick your reactions to so far what has been said.
It's just a mouthful of things which have been raised, and I hope that, Lynn, you have the time for us to exhaust these things in terms of discussion, because you asked a very simple question, interference. Let me on record. In 2006, for instance, those who are privy to intelligence reports, $6 million, somebody was trying to bring in, during the election period, somebody was trying to bring in $6 million. And what did you expect the government to do? Now, these are things definitely which are not discussed at State Square. And therefore, many people are not going to be privy to these kinds of things. There was another tranche of cash that was supposed to be channeled through a friendly country in Northern Africa, again, to try and influence the outcome of elections. These are some of the things that we really point at in as far as interference is concerned, because somebody from very far, and I don't want to name names, but we have all the names of these people who are trying to influence, who always try to influence the outcome of elections in Africa. Colossal sums of money being sent across the. Fortunately, the intelligence network that we have as a country has been, I think, on top of the job. And therefore, whoever tries to influence the outcome of elections, definitely they are going to be nipped in the bud, because definitely we are going to find out how much money, to whom it was being sent, and so on. Try to influence the outcome of the elections, and also probably subsequently try to influence how we behave as a country in terms of our cultures and so on and so forth. And so these are the things which we come into play when we are talking about interference. Now, when it comes to Lynn, and I don't know that I can there are so many accusations, especially against President Museveni, the NRM, and so on and so forth. I don't know that you have the time for us to really respond to each one of them, because Lynn, Miriam, my sister, has raised quite a number of things. Kharim has also raised a number of things. And I just want to say in brief that when I was still doing my postgraduate degree at university, my political science professor told me that, you see, political effectiveness and efficiency is about how you keep the power. And the power, nobody wants to leave power. Once you get it, you want to really entrench yourself as much as possible. And what the process brings about is that definitely you're going to make yourself as strong as possible and so on and so forth. But put in vernacular, I think it becomes even more dramatic. That that is the kind of thing which I see all over the world, even if it comes to the US. Because the Democrats right now want to retain power, and that's why they are coming with all sorts of bills through the Congress in order to entrench themselves and so on and so forth. So that is the bitter truth in as far as political competition is concerned. That somebody gets, or a group of people get into power, and they want to keep it for as long as possible. And how they do it, that is a story for another day. Now, of course, there are quite a number of things. We, as a country, we have gone through a number of things. I mean, like Kennedy put it. For instance, I just want to give an example. That between 1979 and 1980, we had 5 heads of state. If just changing heads of state is the really the aspect that we want to emphasize here, that okay, you can get rid of President Yoweri Museveni and bring another. And I'm not saying that President Yoweri Museveni is going to be president of the country forever, but we had 5 changes, 5 heads of state between 1979 and 1980. And what did I mean? If I can probably help some who are not in the country. Personally, I've been inhabiting that country since 1965, so I'm 57 years and I've seen quite a lot of things. So we had 5 heads of state: Idi Amin, Yusuf Rule, Lukongo Abinaisa, Paulo Mwanga, and Milton Obote. But in a space of only 1 year, we had 5 heads of state. But at what cost? At what cost? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't change heads of state. I mean, if the democracy is the avenue that we are going to use to change leadership in our country, so be it. I have absolutely no problem. But just mere change that you think you can change from President Yoweri Museveni to Kyagulanyi. Okay, fine, try. But the indications on the ground, as far as the political competition that we have in the country between the opposition and the administration that we have at the moment is such that we are winning elections. I mean, we have just won all the by-elections. And of course, the opposition in the country is going to say that these elections are rigged. Fine, go ahead and say so. And you have an avenue. I mean, you can go to the courts of law and contest the results of those elections. And so, and there's quite a number of people in this opposition in Uganda have actually enjoyed democracy much more than anybody else. I have not personally been to, for instance, the kind of number of political parties that ANT president Komugisha has been, because his background as a family was UPC. Then he went to the NRM, then FDC, and now ANT. I don't know where else, in as far as political trajectory of Komugisha is going. So people have enjoyed actually democracy in the country. And as I think Kennedy put it rightly, that people who are opposing the Yoweri Museveni administration, in spite of the fact that they continue to accuse that government that it is violating human rights, are actually staying in the country. Nobody is moving out of the country, unlike in the past, when many political opponents of governments in Uganda actually fled the country and stayed outside the boundaries of that country. Right now, as we speak, whoever is opposing President Yoweri Museveni, they insult him day in, day out. They get out of the country and come back unscathed. Nobody touches them unless they cross the red lines of the law. So the country is peaceful. There's no doubt about it. And in as far as I'm concerned, I think we are on the right trajectory in as far as our politics is concerned, because democracy is taking root. Now, learning examples, of course, we've had this discussion before. From what Kenya, I think it was my sister Miriam who was raising the comparison between what's going on in Kenya and what's going on in Uganda. Fine. There are lessons that you can pick from Kenya, but personally, I have not seen any. There are lessons that you can pick, but I want to believe that there are also so many lessons that the Kenyans can pick from Uganda. You see, learning from each other in as far as politics is concerned, I think it's a story which is a long one, and anyone can learn from anybody. I mean, we can learn from the US, and I keep giving examples from the US. Of course, Miriam doesn't want me to give examples of the US, which has had democracy for the last 250 years. And therefore, definitely, in as far as democracy, the US is a country that we have to look at so that we can pick lessons from the, I know, for instance, when Abraham Lincoln was president of the US, they had issues in as far as elections is concerned. They rigged, they did all sorts of things. But because they've been going through this process for so many years, a number of areas have been perfected. Forget about the fact that actually quite a number of areas still in the political system of the US are not as perfect as we want to believe. So there are lessons that we can pick from Kenya. There are lessons that we can pick from the US. There are lessons even the Americans can pick from Uganda as far as democracy is concerned. For instance, look at the case that we had in 1986 when President Museveni had just taken power, bringing on board all shades of political opinion into what was termed as a broad-based government. Until 2005, when people decided that, look, enough is enough, and people wanted to go to their various political parties. The same organizers went, and quite a number of other people went. Fine. And Museveni didn't have to tie these fellows together and band them together into one basket. So they left and formed their political parties and said, let's compete. And this competition has been beautiful in as far as I'm concerned, because it has taken us a long way in removing from us that auger of really changing the government through coups, through takeovers, and so on and so forth. In other words, what we see now in as far as our democratic practices are concerned, how they have developed over the years, is something that has come out of these things, which are very important. Now, so I think somebody raised something about what happened in Arua. There was a by-election, of course. Chagulanyi and the group, they were trying to stage some kind of, including pelting, and nobody from the opposition wanted to talk of these things. They simply say that people were beaten up by the security forces and so on. What did you expect the security forces to do? Especially when you pelt stones, you pelt the presidential convoy with the stones. What did you expect, including putting a grader in the middle of the road to stop the presidential convoy from moving? What did you expect the security forces to do? Definitely they had to rise to the occasion to protect number one and the chief executive officer of the country. Because if they had failed in that duty, then probably the story would have been different. And so sometimes I think when we raise these things, we have to be a little bit reasonable and also not judgmental, because in many cases we are going to make mistakes and we are not going to come to a conclusion that helps to build democracy in our country. It's extremely important that we try as much as possible to bring. Now, Kharim was raising the issue of Uganda being a dictatorship. Fine. It's just a matter of conjecture that to him it's a dictatorship. But for me, as far as, because I'm a student of political science, as far as I'm concerned, dictatorship would mean that probably there is no parliament, there is no democracy. In other words, there are no functional political parties. And I'm happy that each one of these individuals in the opposition who are part of this panel are mentioning where they are coming from, ANT, NUP, and so on and so forth. That is good, because there was a time when nobody would make mention in our country these political parties. But now we can comfortably mention and also say where we belong. For me, that is already a plus in as far as our democracy is concerned. So when it comes to a dictatorship, I would believe there would be no functioning political parties. There would be no three arms of government, which is the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. And as far as Uganda is concerned, all these institutions of government are actually functional. Of course, they may be having problems here and there, but that is the nature of our politics, and we have been growing the democracy in the country. The politics has also been growing very well in as far as the organization of these three arms of government is concerned. So in as far as I'm concerned, Uganda can't be taken as a dictatorship unless there is something wrong with our reasoning because of those things which I have mentioned. Now, the rigging, of course, I have not seen it in any African country where after an election, those who have been defeated don't say that the elections have been rigged. Of recent, even in the US, people are actually crying of rigging. And you saw what happened outside the Capitol Hill after the elections that brought Biden into power in the US. So when we're talking about rigging, fine. Even where Kharim you are, people are talking about rigging. So it's not an exclusive problem, if at all it is, of Uganda. So when we're talking about these things, let's put them in context. And we say, okay, if there is rigging in Uganda, can I go to a court of law, for instance, and make sure that I'm heard and I get justice after the elections have been rigged? But for us to shout outside or from the bullet pulpit of our safe comfort zones where we are, to say that elections in Uganda are actually being rigged, and then year in, year out, people are actually taking part in these elections. You are saying, yes, the elections are being rigged. But then if they are being rigged, why do you continuously participate in them? If they are being rigged, then don't take part in those elections. For the meantime, Lynn, let me stop there.
All right. Thank you, Ambassador Henry Mayega. Now, we have some few minutes to the top of the hour. I'll take reactions so far to what has been discussed so that we don't go into something very huge and time, catches up us. Kennedy, rather Francis Kamuhanda, you're up next. I see your hand up. Yes, Francis, go right ahead.
Thank you, Lynn, and fellow panelists. It is so unfortunate that when we're having these healthy discussions, the NRM cadres never want anybody to mention that there is something that is amiss or going wrong. Having said that, I would like to dispel the argument of Honorable Ambassador Mayega to say that Uganda has ever had 5 presidents changing power in a spell of 1 year, and if changing presidents was an issue in Uganda, then why did this happen? Ambassador, that was not through democratic means that we are trying to say that that's what should have taken place. And it's what your government, generally, what they are doing is what is most likely to push us to such a scenario, which we are trying to avoid if you go and read the preamble of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Having said that, then I will come to, you are saying that everybody is coming and accusing the president. Yes, if you look at most of the scandals that have taken place in Uganda, they stem from the president. And it is important for us to begin and try to change the status quo. You also said that you did not learn anything from the recently concluded elections in Kenya. I think one of the things you might learn may be that the rest I can forgive, but did you see any of the presidential candidates in Kenya being shot at by the state machinery that is supposed either to keep law and order? Can't that be a good example for you to learn from? And 2, did you see any of the rallies of any presidential candidate being stopped, or people stopped to go and campaign in a given area? All these are
quickly, Ruto was stopped from coming to Uganda. Do you remember? Do you remember that Ruto was stopped from coming to Uganda?
To come and campaign in Uganda? That defeats logic. I'm saying about the elections in their country, inside. Honorable Mayega, Uganda is one of the constituencies of Kenya, so he was coming to campaign in Uganda. I'm talking about the election, not the bilateral relationship, in as far as visiting is concerned. Anyway, having said that, let's go back to when you said that there is money that is being flocked to countries to go and destabilize. I agree with you that no other country should influence the politics of another, most especially if it is influencing the presidential elections. I agree with you. But if we are talking about the politics of money, there is no political party in Uganda that has ushered in the politics of money like NRM, the buying of voters on top of rigging elections year in, year out. And we are saying, as a country, if we are to move it forward, let's usher in clean politics. And then, but during the elections, we see NRM literally buying votes, money exchanging hands. What we should be selling to Ugandans would be ideas. Like, what is your manifesto doing? What kind of government are you trying to put in place? And as we have always said, that's why for us as ANT, we are always saying the NRM demolished all institutions and structures of government and reduced them to only one person, who is Museveni, who is the state, and the state is himself. And for us, that's why we're struggling to ensure that institutions come back into operation and they are respected, and we usher in politics of values. So it is important for us to agree that, and we shall keep mobilizing, by the way. You should also accept that Uganda is not operating in isolation. People in the diaspora, you would even thank God that they still have their country at heart. They still value themselves as Ugandans. And unless you want to lock us out, that don't come back. In most cases, I have always disagreed with my brother Kenneth. Always, whenever he talks about what the movement is doing, sometimes he talks from a privileged point of view, which sometimes I don't agree with him. It is always important for us to say that, yes, here your party itself has done good and here it has done wrong. And if we have a healthy conversation, that's what is going to save the country. But if you keep defending the movement as an angel, then we are risking, we are smartly dressed going nowhere. But for sure, the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda has been abrogated by the NRM. And we have to bring back constitutionalism and, most importantly, the freedom of speech, the freedom of association, and freedom to reach out to people without any deterrences, to sell them our ideas and have their mindset changed in as far as political discourse is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Now, Kennedy, over to you.
Hello, thank you. Now, my brother, I think we have to be careful about selective hearing. I was very, very clear about our shortcomings as a country. Very, very clear. I am never shy about spelling out those weaknesses we have. But I'm also cognizant of the realities of our background. And I said that, you know. So, that said, my sister was talking about exporting people for, you know, employment. Now, imagine a scenario that Uganda said, nobody will leave this country. Nobody will leave Uganda, whether you like it or not. No, whether you have a choice. Because you see, people leaving is a matter of choice. For example, I'll take you back to the history of colonization. Historically, a white man somewhere in Europe decided to go to Africa. You know, they left their comforts, looking for opportunities. Okay. Now, when you have a Ugandan, we can debate the manner in which these people go abroad. We can discuss how they arrive, how they live, how they get employment. But when we want to discourage these people, you go back and read what affected, you know, the white men who arrived in Africa. They were eaten by lions. They were beaten by those, you know, they were beaten by, you know, by African, you know, people. They were killed, but they went nonetheless. Now, eventually, they conquered. You know. Now you have people who arrived here in the Western Hemisphere. They came to America as slaves. You know. And guess what? Through the hardships, and those came in a different fashion. You know. But even then, you know, they stood out. They managed to. Now recently we had their descendant, you know, okay, and we have them in different you know, powerful offices. But when we want to discourage these people, to babysit our people, to make them feel like, you know what, you can't adventure, you can't take on, you know, the hard task of taking on another, you know, another place. It's not right. We need to encourage them. We need to encourage people. If you seek an opportunity, the gold rush, you heard about the gold rush, that people hear there is gold somewhere, and they take on the adventure. You know? So, yes, what I talked about exporting peace, it is a fact. You know, it is not in dispute. It is a fact. You know, our forces have been on the continent transacting, you know, giving security. So, when we talk about Ugandans going abroad, you know, on their own, you know, they are not coerced, they are not forced. They decided to say, you know what, while I could make this much here, I have a choice of making more there, you know. And now our responsibilities as understanding people, as educated people, we need to say, how can we make sure that they don't go through the third door? That is our responsibility, to make sure that they are not taken advantage of. And I think Honorable Mayega is at the at the front line. So that is very, very important when we want to be serious about what we are talking about, not casually saying things for the purposes of politics. Because yes, naturally, you can go across, for purposes of clarity, you go to Masai Mara, there is the crossing of the wild beasts and the zebras and all that. That season, that season, the crocodiles, no, it is on clock. The crocodiles are ready, However, these animals will have to cross as a matter of nature, because there is a greener pasture across the river. And yes, some will die, but some will survive. Another generation will be born. So those are facts of nature. So we cannot imprison our people to contain them just for the sake of of making them feel good. No, we must come forthright and tell them that, look, where you're going, it is not that easy. You need to study. You need to understand what are the expectations. Because you see, this I likened this to weddings and marriages. Someone gets excited about the wedding, and they forget the grander picture of marriage. So here, taking a flight is not the excitement. You need to understand, flying to where, for what. And by the way, this has beleaguered our people for a very long time. If you think about it, the majority of us who came into the diaspora were never educated on putting things on paper to say, okay, you're flying out. One, what are the expectations there? Are you migrating so that you become an American or a Chinese or wherever you go? Okay, have you gone for education? And if you've gone for money, how much of it? So you find that the majority of the people who come, they come with a zigzagged idea, and they get lost in the confusion. Here, we need to ask, the Lyns, and everybody here to say, what? Let us tell our people what we know, so that they don't get lost in this whole picture of confusion. And it is important. So now back to that critical part of our country where we are, it is not, this question of discussion is very, very important, and it will go on for as long as we are here. And the next generation will be debating just about the same things we're talking about, because we've learned that the future of Uganda is America. And the fact that America is still questioning their electoral processes, where you have a president who said, what, I didn't lose. So many years, hundreds of years later, there is a possibility that Uganda, 100 years later, will also have issues to question in this forum of politics. So that's my belief, and I think I'm right. But in this whole thing, I thank you very much, and Lynn, thanks for promoting this. And for our listeners, it is very, very important that when we are listening here, we lose the tempers, we lose the temptation to be, hyped up for no reason. Let us learn, that I saw someone who was advising another to say, he said, read a lot and watch a lot, so that you don't say, on every subject, because the chances, if you don't read, if you don't listen, you'll be surprised all the time.
All right, then. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kennedy. Miriam, I intentionally am concluding with you. Pick your reactions to this, and of course, tell us about the upcoming UNA convention and what we can look out for.
Yeah, I will start with Kennedy, because Kennedy, when you start bringing colonialism in the bright light when it comes to Africa, that's blasphemy in history. That's an abomination, and I hope you never, ever do it again. Those people who came to Africa, they were looters, and they left their home. I don't know whether it was comfortable. So trying to compare young Ugandans going to the Middle East because they are trying to survive with colonialists, with the looters, which was like a government-aided process to go and loot and destroy Africa. I don't know what to say. And the difference is Ugandan youth are leaving Uganda because they can't find employment in Uganda. They are not like you who could have left America because maybe you thought you could do better. You were already surviving, but you thought you can improve on that. For them, they are trying to survive. That's the bottom line. They don't have jobs. The statistics are there to show that. That's why I quoted the Bureau of Statistics. It's a Ugandan report. There are no jobs. How many Ugandan graduates get employed? How many? Not even more than 20%. So what happens to them? How do they survive? The economy cannot absorb the number of youth we have today who are seeking employment, and that's the crisis.
My sister Miriam, the truth of the matter, what is important to learn, what is important to understand is that if there wasn't colonialism, if the French didn't come to Africa, France wouldn't be there. That's a fact. No. So yes, when you talk about unemployment, the truth is,
if they did come to Africa, Africans wouldn't have been enslaved, Africa wouldn't have been destroyed, and Africa would be the leading civilization in the world.
That's the truth, but no, I'm speaking from their perspective. I'm not speaking in the defense of Africa.
Can I continue, please, Lynn? We don't have much time, Kennedy. I think we can reverse the same topic later. But sure. The point is, Ugandans today are leaving the country because they are starved, because they are trying to survive, because they are pushed out. There is a difference between voluntarily leaving and being stressed and you're trying to survive. It's like running out of your house when it's on fire. It can't be compared with someone walking to a wedding party. So that's where the difference is. Today, Uganda, the unemployment rates are so high, and the youth have no way to survive. They are trying to survive even when they had conditions where they are going. And that's why Kharim referred to it and compared it to chattel slavery. The word slavery cannot be used in a romantic way and not so casually. Please note that. Slavery is slavery, and it means death, destruction, and loss of life, either way, either physically or emotionally, and by other means. And another thing is, what is happening today is brain drain. These youth should be contributing in building Uganda. Today, our economy is not doing so much better. You saw Museveni trying to patch up figures and claim that we are middle income. We are not. Our GDP is still 840. The middle income is supposed to be 1,040, somewhere there. So we are still poor, the poorest of the poor. If you list the poorest countries in the world, if there are 20, Uganda is among them. That's how bad, very bad. So just take that in mind before we move any further. And I want to quickly respond to Ambassador Mayega. Francis hit on it. Having foreign countries support the oppositional forces or support the democratic processes in Uganda is not illegal, and it's not against, like nationalism or patriotism. Actually, we need such a forces. For instance, we welcomed the USA sanctions on errant military officers who killed Ugandans in cold blood, and the government can't do nothing about it. We still need more because the regime in Kampala is not doing enough. And if the US government can support the UPDF, why cannot support the human rights in Uganda? If it can support and retrain UPDF soldiers who are, at the same time, they are the ones who are doing the crimes in Uganda, why cannot instead support the democratic forces, the building of democratic institutions in Uganda? So there is a right way where the international forces can help and support democratic processes in Uganda. And whatever you're referring to as illegal, I mean, even NRM was doing it. There is a case in court, and I hinted on it. For the interest of time, I want to go further. But you remember the Chinese who was trying to fund Museveni's campaign, Patrick Ho, and Kutesa was the one lobbying for that. It was a big international scandal, and the case is still there. Why don't we talk about that instead? That was illegal, that was undemocratic, and actually the Ugandan election should have been nullified even based on that fact alone. So and the Kenyan cases, I don't know what lessons we are teaching them, because I don't see any so far. Whatever you alluded to as broad-based in 86, our corrupt forces couldn't allow we stand. I wish we stayed on that on that process a little longer to rebuild for nation building. At least we revive our economy, but we couldn't allow it. So we have nothing much to teach the outside world, unfortunately, though we could do much better. And Lynn, about the conventions, and yeah, there is a UNA conference, and there are UNA causes conferences, the Baganda uniting, Batoro uniting, NUP is trying to reconstitute its party organs in diaspora and ANT and other groups. What is important is, for me, what I like in those gatherings is we are happy to see Ugandans coming together, even for a smaller thing, even if it's a smaller circle about building a school in Chege or whatever. That's a positive trend. And most of the time when we come together, we are always trying to chart a way forward. We try to see how best can we improve conditions at home, whether it's about how you send money to your grandmother, whether it's about a bigger issue like the brain drain happening with the Ugandan youth and how we can improve our economy, maybe by improving the labor condition, pushing for improved labor conditions externally where possible. So we come together for different things, and the conventions are happening. I wish Ugandans very well, those who are going for the gatherings, wherever you are, whether you are going to IRA for UNA causes, whether you're going to San Francisco for the UNA convention. I wish you happy celebrations and coming together. And we are soon also going to celebrate independence in our different locations. So a lot is going on, and it is summer full of parties, especially coming from COVID, where we couldn't associate a lot physically. Now we have an opportunity to interact and share our ideas and celebrate and just, catch up with each other. It's like united we survive and divided we fall. So those things are really very important. But I wish there was less political interference from the Ambassador Mayega. I wish your government was sending experts into these conventions instead of sending NRM agents just for politicking. I wish
but you also send people who talk about politics. So to
equalize
your effort, the politicians. But besides that, where do you draw the boundary between a technocrat of government and a politician? Because some of them even double. And so where are you going to put? I
don't mind a politician doing technical stuff, but it better be qualified to do that technical stuff. For instance, there was a scandal for that.
What qualifications, for instance, do you want to see on the ground?
I want to see real professional marketers. Because
Miriam, I've been attending UNA conventions since 2011. I only skipped because of COVID. But I know it for a fact that people have come from Uganda Investment Authority, people have come from NIRA, People have come. That's why even national IDs are now being issued over there, even passports and so on, which services have also been extended here and quite a number of other countries. And the process is going to be rolled out in so many other missions.
Yes,
So the technocrats have actually been coming, unless you want to say.
Yes, Ambassador, those government agents, that is the basic. But I'm talking about a bigger role. For example, calling upon the African and diaspora, the African Americans, for instance, African Europeans, to come and invest in Uganda, to come and invest in our tourism or visit. Those big things, for instance, we recently saw an embarrassing scandal of Terence Howard, who had come. I mean, instead of utilizing such a bigger opportunity for
No, but Miriam,
developing our economy, we are busy corrupting.
I don't know whether Lynn has got more time for us to discuss these things, because then I can respond, because part of my job is actually, part of my job in the UAE is to look for those very people you're talking about. And of recent, we have taken over $4 billion US in terms of investment to Uganda as a result of the expo we had in Dubai. And I saw quite a number of people coming from North America to attend.
All right, Miriam and Ambassador, I'm sorry, we're out of time. I would rather have that conversation out of this. Maybe we on the sidelines, I don't know. But thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. It's about time we are closing this show, and I thank you indeed for your time. Let's keep having these conversations, and hopefully we can build a better Ugandan diaspora as well as our own country. Thank you very much. We'll catch you again next time.